everyone, and this morning I'm going to read a story all about nature and a wildlife animal. Have you guessed it? This is my dress up for a wiggly worm. Can you see my wiggly worm eyes? It's actually a hoodie, but I thought I'd read it to you for a bit of fun for our English. And it ties in really well with our TGIF project, which is being nature detectives. So, here we go. This is Yucky Worms by Vivian French and Jessica Allberg. Let's open the first page and take a look in the book. Who is this woman? Who is this boy? Where do you think they are? What do you think this woman has in her hand? Why is the boy pulling a face like that? Can you pull a face like that? How would you feel if you saw one of these in somebody's hand? One day when I was in Gran's garden, Gran dug up a slimy, slithery, wiggly worm. Yuck, I said. Throw it away. Throw it away? Gran looked horrified. Would you throw away one of your friends? You can't be friends with a worm, I said. You can't even tell which end is which. Yes, you can. Watch. Gran put the worm down. It gave a kind of squirmy wriggle and disappeared really fast, pointy end first. As the rounded end vanished, Gran said, "There goes its tail." I bent down to look and I could see it had left a little tunnel. "Where's it gone?" I asked. "Home," Gran said. "It's an earthworm and lives in the earth." And this shows you an illustration of what is inside a wiggly worm. Does it eat earth too? I wanted to know. It eats tiny, tiny stones and bits of grit, Gran told me. But worms eat other things as well, like rotting leaves and flowers and fruit and dead insects. They especially like eating at night when it's cool. Worms come above ground to find things to eat too. They pull their food back down as they wriggle into the earth again. The stones and grit help to grind everything up in the worm's stomach, and then the worm poos it back out. He's having a good look at this. Gran pointed at the flower bed. "Look, can you see?" I bent down and I saw a weird, long, curly worm made of earth. "That's worm poo," Gran said. "It's called a cast. You know when you recycle things? Well, worms do it too. There's still a lot of goodness left in the things a worm eats, and when the goodness comes out again as poo, it helps plants to grow big and strong. And as the worms move about, under and over the earth, the poo gets spread around the garden." That's why worms are my friends. Gran gave me a thumbs up. It's not just their poo that's good for plants. The tunnels they dig loosen the soil so roots can stretch out and air and rainwater can get in. Worms' poo is so fine and crumbly it never blocks their tunnels. And here is a picture with all their tunnels. If you have a wormery at home, You might see these tunnels in your wormery box under the soil picture. But it's dangerous being a worm, Gran said. I stared at her. Dangerous? She smiled at me. Lots and lots of animals thinks worms makes the best sort of dinner. Here's the mole's shopping list for what he wants to eat. Worm, 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 worm. And birds love them, and so do moles, badgers, frogs, hedgehogs and foxes. Even some slugs eat worms. And human beings slice them with spades and spike them with forks. By mistake, I think. It's a tough life. Cutting them in half doesn't hurt them, Gran, I said. They just turn into two worms and they keep on growing. Gran shook her head. Poor worms. Lots of people think that, but it's not true. She put her fork down. Time for a snack. Gran had tea and I had orange juice. Can I dig a worm up? I asked. If it rains, Gran said, the worms will come up all on their own. It says here, worms breathe through their skins. They don't mind the earth around them being wet, but if their tunnels are flooded, they come up to the surface to breathe, and there they are having their snack. In Gran's lovely, lovely garden. Have a look at what else you can see in that picture. I took a biscuit. What if it doesn't rain? Gran winked at me. We'll use the watering can and pretend. I finished my biscuit as fast as I could. Can we trick the worms now? Gran went to fill the watering can and I watered the earth. Then I stood back. I didn't want worms chewing at my shoes. So there he is, watering the vegetable patch. They only put their heads out, Gran promised, and it will be a while before they do. When it's very hot and the soil gets too dry to slither through, a worm will wriggle down to where the earth is still damp, curl up and wait for the rain. When it's very cold, it will wriggle down even deeper, below the frost level, and curl up with other worms for warmth. This is Gran. Gran was right. I had time to eat 2 more biscuits before she said, "Look!" "Wow," I said. I could just see the tip of a worm above the earth. "Now, watch this." Gran stamped and the worm disappeared. There's a little worm. It's Gran stamping and the worm is gone. "Did it see you?" I asked. Gran shook her head. Worms don't have eyes. They feel vibrations though, and a thump like that might mean a hungry bird landing, which means danger. And so the worms disappear. Gran dug her fork in the ground, and up came lots of earth and wriggly worms. She picked one up and washed it in the watering can. "Mustn't drop it," she said. "They can't swim." Gran put the clean worm onto some paper and held it near my ear. I could hear a tiny rustling noise. "What's that?" "They're covered in little bristles," Gran said. "The bristles and their muscles help them to move." Some facts about worms down here. A worm has ridged muscles all the way along its body. To move, it pushes the front end forwards. It uses the bristles to hold that end in place, while the back then catches up with it. The back end bristles stop the worm from sliding backwards, while the front end tunnels forwards again into the earth, just like a slinky toy. From Toy Story had a slinky toy, didn't it? I've got muscles too. I bent my arm so Gran could see. If you've got so many muscles, she said, maybe you'd like to help me plant my sunflower seedlings. OK, I nodded, and then I thought of something. When I go to school on Monday, I'm going to say that I've got lots of new friends. Good idea, said Gran. Actually, I said, I might not actually say they're worms. This shows how to be a wormologist. So you can look out for worm casts, leaves sticking up out of the earth, and worms on the surface after the rain. You can look for all those things. Experiment by watering a dry patch of earth or grass, just like he did in the story, and watching to see if the worms come up, tapping on the ground to see if you can make a worm believe it's raining, and carefully digging up a forkful of earth and counting how many you can find. Do you think that worms are yucky? We're going to set some writing linked to this next week. So hopefully you can use the facts that you've learned in this book for your writing in English.